So it wasn't really planned, but it wasn't unplanned. So then instantly I was like, how am I gonna surprise Lee? Like, he's always wanted to be a dad, just like I've always wanted to be a mom. We always knew that we wanted to grow our family.
And she'd said, hey, I cleaned out the junk drawer. And the junk drawer is like an inner joke of like, it's the dumping ground of our house.
And he opened it up and there was a onesie and the test.
And so that's how I found out.
He just couldn't believe it. I think he swore, and it was just like, we were just so elated. You just don't imagine anything other than what you want, I guess, which is a healthy baby. And then we went in for our 12-week ultrasound. It was just taking a long time, but of course, it's my first pregnancy. I didn't really know. I thought this is just kind of standard. This is how it works.
She was gone for, an extended period of time, and that's kind of when we both were like, oh boy.
And then she came back and she just said, there's something called gastroschisis that we've seen on the scan. And of course, pretty much after that, I just blacked out. I was like, what is that? And then I just remember her saying, the organs are on the outside of the body. And I'm thinking, well, that can't be good.
She's got very emotional. Obviously, she's carrying the child. And so I went into defense mode where it's like, give me all the information now. What's gastroschisis? What does that mean? What is the likelihood of survival? I don't know. Is this something that's life-threatening?
You do what any parent does and you take to Google. It's not pretty. It is exactly what they say it is. It's the organs on the outside of the body.
It can be just a little bit of the organs. It can be the bowel. It can be some of the major parts of the body can be out. And you don't know. The ultrasound doesn't tell you that. You don't know what is going to be exposed or what's going to be affected until birth.
Yeah, I just kind of came home and we just sat together and cried and talked about it and waited to hear from our doctor.
Is my son going to have to deal with something that other kids just don't have to deal with? And so you don't think about just what are the next 9 months, you really start thinking about what are the next 75, 85 years. And that was the hardest part.
Our specialist did say, there's a really good chance most gastroschisis babies do come early, around 36 weeks. Our little guy was obviously very excited to meet us. He came at 33 and 1 is when I went into labor. It was actually the day of my baby shower, and I kept saying to the nurses, when am I going to go? I have to wash my hair. I have to get ready for my baby shower. And finally, one of the nurses just looked at me and said, honey, you're not going home. I was like, oh.
So we were admitted into the hospital, and
the NICU was actually full.
We were told we had to go to Saskatoon. And that's not easy to deal with when you have your whole family here.
So thankfully, Dr. Prakapa, she was like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to somebody. So she came back and she said, you're staying. Not being able to be in Regina in our local NICU would have been so hard.
It was a few days. He was born 2 days later.
I had a C-section. It was as good as it could possibly be for such a traumatic entry into the world for our little guy. He was born with his small, large intestines outside and his appendix. To be honest with you, I didn't even notice the organs everywhere. I just looked at his face. It was so cute.
It's amazing how you can look past that the second you see him. You don't see the intestines. It was just, there's Dane.
He was the most beautiful boy I'd ever seen. And then, he was taken immediately, obviously, to the NICU.
They don't know when they're going to place everything in. So it gets put into a bag and it hangs from the isolate for days. And every day they inch it down into his stomach to let his stomach adjust.
And then there will be a closure surgery.
We're going to put everything back in. We're going to sew him up and see how it goes.
He went into surgery before I could hold him.
They're in the isolates, so you don't get to hold them. For us, it was just over 2 weeks.
And then I got to hold him, and it was just the most magical experience. I was scared, of course, that I was going to break him. He was just so tiny.
The first 4 days, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, however long it is for that child, they're testing like, okay, can he feed? Is he pooping? Is he peeing? Like, are the intestines working? Is everything going through and functioning correctly? I mean, we came in one morning, there was a nice note from one of the nurses at night, said Dane had his first poop. And that was one of the best letters I've ever read.
He had the most exceptional recovery. Of course, it's not a place that you ever want to go, but if you do have to go, it is the most special, magical place. The people in there are earth angels. They are just so incredible. Dane today, he keeps me on my toes. He is fiery.
He's thriving. He's a boy through and through.
He loves tractors and combines and all sports.
Good one.
He's my little rough and tough boy.
Yeah, so we got pregnant again.
It was just like this beautiful pregnancy that I kind of had always hoped and dreamed for with Dane. And then that didn't happen.
Everything was fine, and then it wasn't fine. She wasn't breathing, so it was a quick grab off of Holly, and they said, we're gonna have to take her to the NICU. And those are words we had to hear again.
She had really low cord gases, and they didn't know how long she was without oxygen and blood flow.
They had to do a procedure of cooling her down as a proactive response to what happened.
They're putting her into a hypothermic state to help with potential brain damage. I couldn't hold her, so it was like reliving it all over again.
Bowels, you can cut and snip and work around. Cognitive is hard, and that was the risk. And so that's a 6-day waiting period those are tough 6 days, yep.
One of the things that helped me through was I just know the power of the NICU. And then in those moments, that is when it's just like, we are so lucky. We are so lucky to have what we have.
Okay, put your arms out.
Halo is his world. He loves her. The video I have of them meeting is the most precious thing ever.
He's been just an amazing big brother. You know, we brought her home and he was immediately like, just hands out, like, give her to me. I want to hug and kiss her. When you see your first child and your second child fight hard to be here, it really changes your perspective on life. It changes everything.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna be a doctor?
You don't expect to be in the situation until you are. And you don't know what you have until you need it. I didn't even know what really the NICU was about. Like, again, like, you know what it's there for.
There he is.
But you don't know the value that it has until you have to live through it. And I'm just so grateful that there's organizations like the Hospitals of Regina Foundation that exist to allow parents like myself and Holly to enjoy the everyday that we have with our kids. Because without it, the likelihood of where we would sit wouldn't be here. There's just no way. Our population is forever growing. Our hospitals are forever needing more and more. So if you're a donor, I mean, every single year it matters just as much as it did the last year, because there's a new family that's gonna need it.
Everybody who donates literally saved my son's life.
Without that team and the technology that supports it, we'd lose a lot of babies. A lot.